Welcome to my channel. In today's video, I am going to share with you a video titled, "When he stops loving you, he starts saying these 7 things." Before we proceed, don't forget to like, share, comment and follow our channel for more updates. Love is that one feeling that makes you feel so alive. It enhances and amplifies all emotions. Joy, pleasure, and even anger are all amplified by love. After experiencing it, it is really hard to adjust to not being with the person you love. Sadly, we must make allowance for this sort of event in life. Can a man stop loving you? Yes, he can. A number of factors can make a man stop loving you. Of course, none of these factors is as frivolous as ending a relationship with a lady because you just discovered you are attracted to voluptuous women. I can categorically state that you were never in love. My point, however, is that a man can stop loving you. It's terrible news, but the truth about love is that it needs to be nurtured for it to bloom. If you ever stop providing the right environment for love to bloom in your relationship, it starts to shrivel. It happens gradually, like autumn leaves changing color and falling to the ground. This is the same way a man stops loving in a relationship. It occurs gradually. However, if you are attentive, there are always subtle signals for you to pick up. Here are 7 things he might start saying when the love begins to fade. When he stops loving you, he starts saying these 7 things. 1. I am just really busy. One time, I was discussing this with a lady, and she insisted that a man should never be too busy for someone he loves. Now, the reason for the discussion was my statement about men requiring personal space in relationships. She wasn't against that, but she believed a man must always make time for the woman he loves. The truth is, you can never be too busy for the person you love. Everyone has busy times, and some have tighter schedules than others. But one thing is certain: when you love someone, you give them priority. It is just normal. A major thing that occurs when a man stops loving you is that he starts making excuses for why he can't spend quality time with you or communicate with you frequently. Don't get me wrong. Life can get hectic sometimes, and it can be really difficult to keep in touch or spend time with your partner during these periods. But when busy becomes the go-to response or excuse for everything, it is a sign that something is wrong. It seems like your man is too busy to spend time with you or even talk to you for a few minutes. I have fallen out of love before, and I know how guys can be when they feel this way. It is almost like they are telling you, "I don't prioritize you anymore," because that is what it actually feels like when you tell your partner you are busy all the time. 2. Why are you being so emotional? The truth is that most men really can't relate when women get so emotional. I usually feel like I am out of my depth when I am around an emotional woman. Even when we are at a loss on what to do around emotional women, we try to console them if we care about them. That's just how it is. One time, a female friend was very emotional about some news she had received. She was in tears, and I had no words to console her. All I did was place my hands on her shoulder till her sobs subsided. She later told me she was thankful for my comforting presence, and I was shocked. I mean, I only placed a hand on her shoulder. Apparently, that act of empathy as inadequate as it felt to me, was enough to comfort her. When a man loves you, he cherishes your vulnerabilities. He treats you tenderly when you are emotional. If your feelings don't seem to matter to him in your current relationship and are a source of irritation, then fire is on the mountain. When I started falling out of love with my ex-girlfriend, I felt this way. She would get emotional about how I wasn't calling or texting enough. She would say I was being so distant. She would say all of this, but I would hardly be listening to her. All I could think of was how her voice was grating on my nerves. Telling her she was being emotional was my daily routine. When a man stops loving you, your emotions become irritating. This is why he may usually ask why you are being so emotional in a condescending tone. He no longer tries to understand your emotions. He just dreams of when he will be free of them. 3. You are overthinking it. When a man stops loving you, it is inevitable that you will notice the changes in him, even when you can't place a finger on the actual cause. You will just know that he is different, and your relationship feels different. It is at this point that most women usually approach their partners to discuss their feelings. Maybe you did the same thing, called him, and told him what you noticed about the relationship. But this is where his reaction is odd. While men who love their partners reassure them that all is well, your partner looks you fully in the eye and tells you that you are just overthinking things. Instead of addressing your concerns, he tells you that you are overreacting. One thing I learned from my experience with falling out of love is that most men in this situation find it easier to dismiss their own feelings than face the truth. They know that they no longer love their partners, but they may still struggle with accepting that truth. This is one of the reasons why he would rather say you are overthinking things than address your concerns. When a man's sole reaction to your valid concerns about the relationship is to tell you to stop overthinking things, it is a sign that something is wrong. He has probably fallen out of love with you but doesn't have the courage and resolve to tell you yet. 4. Do we have to do this now? One thing a man who has fallen out of love hates the most is a discussion about the future of the relationship. When a man loves you, it is easy for him to envisage a future with you. Talking about the future is something that comes to him naturally because he sees and wants a future with you. The moment you are with a guy who has stopped showing any interest in making plans for the future, it is a sign that something is wrong. I remember an incident from my days of casual dating. I was dating this girl, and while I enjoyed the banter, I didn't like the serious conversations. She would ask me questions like, "Where do you see us in the next 5 years?" My dear, I haven't even seen myself in the next 5 years, not to speak of us. But at that time, I still liked her enough to play along. Until the day she asked, "How many kids do you think we should have?" "I think 3 is enough, 1 boy and 2 girls." That was the last straw that broke the camel's back. "My dear, I haven't even started thinking of engagement, you are already planning for kids." I ran away. But the truth is that meaningful conversations, especially the difficult ones, are like chores to a man when he stops loving you. This is why it feels like every moment is a bad time for your man to talk to you. When you try to initiate meaningful conversations, he stops you with a look of exasperation and says, "Do we have to do this now? I have something else to do." That's an indirect way of saying he has more important things demanding his attention. If he does this frequently, it could be a sign that he has stopped loving you. 5. I need space. Everyone needs space. It is very healthy for your relationship if your partner has some personal space for themselves. However, it has also become an opportunity for many people to indulge in activities they shouldn't be involved in. When your man seems to always request more space, no matter how much space you give him, it could be a sign that he has stopped loving you. A friend was telling me about how her boyfriend asked her to give him space. She was shocked because they don't stay together and she doesn't even see him every day. At that point, the only thing they did every day was call each other, and he still wanted them to reduce that. He said he wanted space. When she told me about it, I told her that it would be better if she realized that, at this point, she was in a relationship with herself. That guy was already falling out of love. That was certain to me. He just had not gotten to the point where he would be ready to end the relationship. She insisted that he loved her and he was going through tough times. Well, you can't force anyone to take your advice, and I have found that some of the hardest people to advise are people in love. So, I let her make her decision. Months later, he ended the relationship, and she was devastated. When she told me, I could only console her. I didn't tell her, I told you so. We don't do that to friends. If your man always asks for space without clear boundaries, it could be a sign that he has stopped loving you. When a man stops loving you, he always asks for space because he prefers to be distant from you. Space becomes a euphemism for creating distance, an excuse to drift further apart. Space in a relationship shouldn't mean a break from the relationship. But if it looks like a break, you should start preparing for when the break will become permanent. 6. You used to be different. One thing is constant in life, and that is change. So, it is possible for people to change both in good and bad ways. But have you ever been in a situation where you are being accused of changing in a negative way by someone who has absolutely changed? This is the kind of situation I am talking about. I remember when an ex looked at me and said I had changed for the worse. She said things like, "You no longer treat me as tenderly as you used to, and you don't communicate like you used to." The actual truth was that I got tired of taking the initiative on everything and wanted to see if she was going to make any effort. But she was only making an effort to blame me for what was happening. The truth is that when a man tells you this, he is comparing you against an idealized version of yourself. He is comparing you to how you were when things used to be rosy, and maybe his own way of justifying the changes in his behavior. It is his way of saying you caused what is happening presently. It is his own way of saying you are responsible for his waning love for you. 7. I don't love you anymore. The truth is that love comes as a surprise, but it leaves gradually. Only the unobservant person is taken by surprise when it exits. All the phrases above have contained a hidden message. I don't love you anymore. However, at some point, a man who is no longer in love decides to bluntly spell out the hidden message in all the phrases above. Hearing this from someone you love could be really difficult. It could feel like the world has come to an end for you. But it's not the end of the world. It may not even be the end of the relationship. Love can always be reignited if both partners are ready to put in the work. However, you should also note that a relationship is not a do-or-die affair, and two cannot walk together except they agree. You don't have to hold on to a man who doesn't love you anymore. Especially if you are holding on to him at the detriment of your welfare. Prioritize your welfare, please. With time, you'll heal from the hurt, And you can also engage the services of a counselor if you need help navigating your emotions when it's raw. Someday, you will be happy you chose your peace over everything else. Sending you hugs, you will be fine, eventually. Thanks for watching. Turn on the bell icon for more updates.